Hello and welcome to the Hill and Ponton video blog. I'm Matthew Hill.
I'm Carol Ponton.
And today we want to talk to you about Agent Orange and peripheral neuropathy. This is actually a pretty tricky one. Well, first of all, let's back up. With Agent Orange, the VA has admitted that there are 14, 15 diseases that are related to Agent Orange. And if you can show that you were exposed, the easiest way is if you were serving in Vietnam, they should assume you're exposed. And they will presume that any of these 14, 15 disabilities are service-connected, and you don't have to show that link in between. So big ones we always see: diabetes,
prostate cancer,
Parkinson's,
ischemic heart disease, Parkinson's, a number of cancers.
And so if you have one of these, then there's no fight from the VA on the service connection. The rating is a whole nother story. But if you have something that's off the list, or there's a temporal part of it, then that gets difficult. If it's not in the parameters of the list, the VA is going to deny you flat out and just not give you time of day, frankly, on it.
Right.
We talked about it being presumptively service-connected. Even if something isn't presumptively service-connected, the VA has to do the analysis of a direct service connection, meaning did something happen in service? Is there a current disability? Is there a link between the two? So in this case, you'd have something happen in service as far as Agent Orange exposure, current disability. We've talked about kidney cancer before. And then is there a medical link? VA will never do that. They'll just say, nope, not on the list, not
denied.
But we're going to talk about one in particular today.
It's peripheral neuropathy, which is actually on the list, but it says you have to develop it within 2 years, and then they assume that of service, of exposure, and then they assume it will go away. Well, we're finding that there are many thousands of veterans who have developed this peripheral neuropathy much later in life. It could be 30 or 40 years. So what they have is they have numbness, no feeling in their hands, their feet, their legs. It's a terribly crippling disease. And the VA is denying all these. At the same time, they're giving free treatment at the VA because the medical realizes there's a link between them, and you can win these cases. We've won a lot of these cases.
We should say there are a whole host of veterans who have Agent Orange exposure and are service-connected for the peripheral neuropathy because of diabetes.
Right, but this is different.
Right, so you'll see that people have diabetes and then they develop this. But this is a case where there's no diabetes at all.
No diabetes. I can think of a person who his blood sugar was fine, but he had peripheral neuropathy. He was a SEAL in Vietnam, and he was back in the jungle where they had a tremendous amount of this Agent Orange. And he developed, I guess he was in his 60s, where he had no feeling in his hands, his feet. He had foot drop. He couldn't pick up his foot. He couldn't zip up his pants. He couldn't do anything. And then the VA, he actually went to private doctors, and they did pretty much the same thing that the VA is doing. Is they have them come in every 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. They actually have an infusion that takes all day long. They have to put in this medication that goes in, and then they're almost back to normal. They still have some problems, but they can usually walk and use their hands. And this is the peripheral neuropathy I'm talking about. I have veterans that say when they go into the VA in Gainesville in Florida, there'll be a huge circle where they're all sitting around having infusion together, all for peripheral neuropathy, all Vietnam veterans. And the VA has been turning these cases down, but you can win them. You're probably not going to win them at the regional office, but the BVA, the Board of Veterans Appeal, which is where you go after your first 2 times at the regional office, they are approving these cases. You're going to need a medical opinion. You're going to need a doctor who's qualified. We have one that I'm thinking of in particular that she actually worked with the military for a while. She investigated toxins and their effect on the soldiers, and to do an opinion that the exposure to Agent Orange is what has caused this peripheral neuropathy. And most of these diseases are totally disabling. So this is something that I urge you to pursue. You can definitely win this.
Well, that's all we have for today, but thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you again on the space soon.